Today on Storytime, we will be reading Aesop's Fables, The Tortoise and the Hare.
A bundle of Chase and Stella.
The Tortoise and the Hare. Once there was a hare and a tortoise who were good friends, even though they were very different. Tortoise was quiet and liked to do things slowly and carefully. Hare was the opposite. Hare did everything quickly and without thinking. He especially loved to boast about how fast he could run. "I can run faster than the wind," he said to Tortoise. "You are slow. You just drag yourself along. I bet I could run circles around you." Tortoise was fed up of Hare always bragging, so he decided it was time to teach him a lesson. "I may surprise you," Tortoise said with a sly twinkle in his eye. "I always get where I need to go in my own time. Why don't we have a race to prove it?" Hare laughed until he could no longer catch his breath. "A race," he sputtered, "between a tortoise and a hare?" "Yes," replied Tortoise. "Let's meet at the top of the hill tomorrow morning." The other animals gasped, but Hare just smiled. "I can't wait," he said. He thought there was no way that the tortoise would ever beat him. He was a hare after all. The next morning, Hare and Tortoise met for the race. All their friends came along to watch, and soon a huge crowd had gathered. "Hare is the fastest animal of all. I know he will win," said Rabbit. "I agree," said Field Mouse. "Tortoise is so slow. He'll never keep up with Hare." Hare began to warm up. He ran up and down on the spot, touched his toes, and did 50 push-ups. Tortoise just stretched out his little legs one at a time. When the time came, they both lined up at the start. "Ready? Get set! Go!" shouted Crow. Hare shot off down the track like an arrow from a bow, running so fast it was almost as if he was flying. Whoosh! Tortoise, however, started slowly and steadily, inching forward one step at a time. "Come on, Tortoise!" shouted his friends, but Tortoise didn't answer. He just kept his head down and lumbered happily on. Soon there was a huge gap between the tortoise and the hare. When Hare looked around, he could see Tortoise far behind and grinned to himself as he whizzed along. "This is so easy," Hare thought, smiling. "I'm sure I'll win this race." A little way down the track, Hare saw a patch of dandelions in the grass. Tortoise could go all day without eating, but Hare ran so fast that it made him extra hungry. He just couldn't resist the delicious dandelions. "I'll stop and eat," said Hare. "I'm so far in front, Tortoise will never catch up." Hare ate and ate until he felt like he was going to burst. "I'm too full to run," he thought. "I'll just rest for a while. It will be ages before Tortoise gets here." Stretching out on the soft grass, he closed his eyes. He soon fell fast asleep and began to snore loudly. A long way behind, Tortoise was still walking along happily. By the afternoon, he had reached the place where Hare was sleeping. "Oh, look! Hare found some tasty dandelions," he thought when he saw his snoring opponent. "I know he can't resist dandelions. He must have stopped for a snack and fallen asleep," chuckled Tortoise. Unlike his fast friend, Tortoise wasn't hungry. He wasn't tired, and he wasn't hot. So while Hare slept the day away in the warm sunshine, Tortoise passed him by. He continued steadily on, getting closer and closer to the finish line without making any fuss at all. When Hare woke up from his nap, he got quite a shock. It was nearly evening time, and Tortoise was just a speck far ahead in the distance. Tortoise had almost reached the finish line, and it looked as though he was about to win the race. Hare leaped to his feet and dashed after Tortoise. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life. He was so fast, his feet barely touched the ground, and his ears flapped back in the wind. Flying overhead, the crow cheered him on. "Come on, Hare," he called. Hare got closer and closer to Tortoise, tying with him at the last moment. "I'm going to win," thought Hare eagerly. Hare stretched out his neck, but as they dashed over the finishing line together, he saw that Tortoise had beaten him by the length of his nose. All the animals cheered loudly. Hare slumped to the ground, exhausted. "Well done, Tortoise. You were right all along," he gasped. "Sometimes it is better to take your time rather than rushing." "Thank you," replied Tortoise kindly. "Shall we have some dandelions to celebrate?" "No thanks," said Hare, and they both laughed. From that day on, whenever he was tempted to brag, Hare remembered the day the Tortoise had beaten him. And the moral of the story is, slow and steady wins the race. The end.
If you had fun reading with us today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. See you next time on Adventures with Chase and Stella.